Hey, what is going on, YouTube world? Hey, first off, let me know that you can hear me okay and see me okay. Give me a thumbs up. Yes, I can see you. Yes, I can hear you. All that good jazz. You never know. You never know when someone, you think you're talking live, which happened to me 2 weeks ago. And I'm seeing everyone's comments come through, and no one can hear me, no one can see me. And it was all great. So, okay. Thank you, Luciano. Yes. Okay. Awesome. Will. Yep. Okay. Awesome. Yeep. Yeep. That's what I'd say. Yeep. Maybe. All good, David. All right. Awesome. Thank you. Still got my cough from last week. Actually, I've had this cough for 4 weeks. So good stuff. Hey. Okay. So, how's everybody doing today? How's everyone doing? It's been a very, busy morning for me. Very busy morning here in South Florida, but it's all good. How's everyone else doing? Today we're going to talk about third-party effects, and I'm going to show you two of my favorites. Two favorite third-party effects. One is free, one is paid. But before I jump into showing those effects to you, I want to hear from you, and I want to know what your favorite third-party effect is. So please tell me in the chat box, what's your favorite third-party effect? Sometimes I hear the same effects over and over again. Sometimes I'm really surprised by effects that maybe I haven't heard of before. Nowadays, there's so many effects that are kind of being brought onto the market for After Effects that you never know when something's going to pop up weekly. Right, and kind of surprise you with its power. So, what's your favorite third-party effect? I know some people don't love to use third-party effects and try to stay away from them. But I'll tell you, as a pro motion designer, third-party effects are key to really speeding up your workflow, to improving your workflow, helping with just simple tasks, just speed. It's all about speed, right? And just beauty in what you're creating. So, yeah, third-party effects are awesome. So no one's got any good third-party effects. Okay. I'm surprised by this. I know there's a few people on here, but it's okay if you're a little bit shy today. That's a-okay. Turn that off. Let's see. Okay, we got Red Giant or Sapphire. Okay, good ones. Awesome. Sapphire is always in my top. So is Red Giant, actually. Saber is a cool free effect from Video Copilot. I miss his old tutorials and wish he was still doing them. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with Andrew Kramer. He's probably busy making movies, right? Deep Glow. Deep Glow, Motion 2, Element 3D, Modulation, AE Viewer. AE Viewer, I'm not familiar with that one. See, that's one I haven't heard of. Or maybe I've heard of it, I just haven't looked into it. Interesting. Ryan, what's going on, Ryan? Just downloaded Anubis, and it's amazing. Okay, what is Anubis? That sounds really, if it's a game changer, I really want to know about it. What is Anubis? David uses Saber for a lot of work stuff. Saber is an amazing plugin that has so many different uses for it. So I absolutely love Saber. Fieldhouse, I got Metal Freeform Pro, which is awesome. I used to use Metal back in the day. Yeah, that's a powerful plugin. Luciano Red Giant Particular, amazing particle system. Still my favorite particle system out there. Good stuff. And Good Times HG. Hey, Cameron, hope all is good. All is very good. Thank you. Guys, in the middle of this, I may have to turn my mic off for a second. I've got people outside mowing, and they're mowing at the absolute worst time, and they happen to come up when they get close to this window. That's going to be there's a window right by me. They get super loud, so bear with me if that happens. It only lasts about 15, 20 seconds. Okay, so if you don't know who I am, I'm assuming most of you guys do, but if you don't, I'm gonna tell you really quickly. My name is Cameron. I've been doing After Effects for 20 plus years. Started my first motion graphics company in 2003 with my best friend. 2005, after 2 years, I went to work for a regional company in the U.S. Then I started moonlighting in 2006 for a variety of companies. Became a remote freelancer in 2007 with my first big client being Kyle Cooper, who had created Seven's title sequence, which he's a game changer in motion graphics, and was a freelancer up until 2020. So now I run Motion Science full time, where I train motion designers how to get better at their craft. Some of my clients have included 343 Industries, American Express, Amstel, NBC, MTV, PGA. The list goes on and on. That's a little bit about me if you're not familiar with me. Let's jump in and let's take a look at two of my favorite plugins. Flip the screen here. We're going to start with my first plugin here, which is a freebie. And I'm just going to bring in, I could have set this up ahead of time, but I didn't. So let's go ahead and bring this up. I have a background layer here. It's locked. I've got a Indian test pattern. This is a pattern that used to be on the TV way back in the day. And I like to use it for a lot of different examples. I'm going to invert it so it's white on black. And then I'm going to zoom in here and just use my ellipse tool. Hold down Shift, I always forget here, Shift Command, and kind of just draw this out just like that. I'm going to duplicate this layer, and same, so the layer on top is just a circle. The layer on the bottom, we're just going to invert it like that. I'm going to go to two views here. Let's jump out of two views, and let's make this second view, yeah, it's the top. Let's make our two layers 3D. And with the layer here that is just the circle, I'm just going to bring it forward, something like that, right? So it's just sitting in Z space further forward towards the camera. Go back to one view. Here we go. And it looks pretty much the same. I'm going to go ahead and scale this guy down so it kind of lines back up. Maybe something like that. So 81%. Looks great. And then we're going to add a new camera. Layer new camera. And we'll do 35, sure. And let's actually go ahead and scale this guy down just a little bit more based on that camera. Maybe even, you don't have to do this. I just like to have things kind of lined up like that. So we've got this, it's kind of 2.5D looking thing here. I'm just using my camera tool here and just kind of moving around just to show you that there's some depth there. So I'm going to undo that. And now it's time for my plugin, which is Animation Composer 3. At the time of this live, that is what we're using. Animation Composer 3 is free to start with, okay? So it's changed a lot over the years. Now it comes with something called the starter presets, which you see here. And that's what comes free within the plugin. Plus there's some additional tools. There's an anchor point mover like we see here. If you click it, it pops up here. Very handy. You know, a lot of people make different anchor point movers. This one just happens to come inside this script. We have a keyframe wingman, which helps to adjust curves. And we've got a transition shifter, which gets a little bit more technical, but super easy to use if we want to kind of shift transitions around. And here comes the wind blowing guy. He's getting close. Hopefully it's not too distracting. Super distracting to me. What's cool about this plugin, this extension, is when I first came across this script, this plugin, this extension, I was like, oh, that looks okay. It looks kind of cheesy, you know, like it can do like some simple moves and things like that. But when I started playing around with it, I started to actually realize the power of what this plugin can do. And one thing I really like to use it for is like doing 3D moves, right? Here he comes. He's moving very slowly today. I like to use it with 3D cameras because it can create some really interesting movement with 3D cameras, okay? So just to show you, and I'm going to caveat this by saying that when you get into the 3D movements and things like that, these are upgraded preset packs that can do some really cool stuff. But you can try with this basic starter presets, and it gives you a lot to work with, right? So let's see what we got here. Transitions 3D layer. You can click on it and it shows you like a preview here. And I don't want something totally crazy, but like something like this is kind of nice. And then if you open it up, you can see, you can focus in like, oh, here's on the bottom or on the left, right? So maybe the left, maybe you want to bring this object on screen, right? So all I have to do, it's important that you're at the right place in your timeline for where you want to apply this effect. And you can't apply it to a 3D camera. But what you can do, and I'll show you if I try to apply it here, it just gives me this error, please select a layer. So what I can do is I can actually go layer new null object. I can make that null object 3D, and I can parent my camera to that null object. And now with the null object selected, I can say animate in, right? And boom, there it goes. It gives us some things to work with here. But if I preview this now, let me move this out of the way. You can see we've got a pretty interesting, move in. So let me kind of shorten the timeline here. Now, what you can do at this point is you can start playing around with like the angles. You can shift the transition. You can move the position of the null. So let's say we want it to be, I don't know, -60. It's a little bit less of a move. Maybe we want it to be -180, which this is going to be too extreme, I think. Yeah, it's quite extreme. But you can see how the power here of just adjusting some parameters here, and you can adjust your movement. And we made this very quickly, right? Now, if I want to adjust the timing, all I have to do is drag this slider. I can make it now really fast. See how fast it is? It's like boom, right? I can make it really slow, like that, and just kind of, much slower transition. Now I can also, let me move some of these windows out of the way here. I can go to remove, right? So let's say I want to remove all this. So let's go ahead and remove that. It gets rid of the extra nulls it made. Boom, they're gone. We're back to our original layer, our original animation, which is nothing. So those are some 3D transitions. There's also 2D transitions. Because I'm working with a 3D layer here, I really want to see some of the depth. I'm thinking sometimes 2D transitions actually work really well with this kind of stuff. So let's try from the bottom again. Let's apply it. And yeah, see, this one's giving me an error. It's still doing the transition. It's just a little bit funky. So let's go ahead and remove this one. Let's see here. Ease, position. I don't like to get them too crazy. Let's actually move into some motion presets, 3D transitions. Let's do position, maybe overshoot. These are fun, so you can do some really interesting overshoots. Right, so maybe, let's try this. Let's try it, have it come in, and let's move this guy out of the way. Yeah, that's fun, right? So maybe it's too fast. So I can drag that down. Maybe I want, see it's set to 1 bounce. Let's try like, I don't know, do something crazy, 3. And you've got like 3 bounces here. And you can see how, like, again, how quickly I'm able to animate this with just clicking a couple buttons, changing a couple numbers. And it's super, super simple, right? Let's say, well, let's go ahead and remove all of these again. Let's go back into, what's some other one? How about position? What's this one? Yeah, these are a little crazy because there's so many rotations. I can try it. A lot of times I try to stay away from things that are super complicated with the movement. That's actually okay. And again, if we wanted to adjust like if we were to go back here and kind of look at where it's starting, see how it's quite a ways off camera here. So we could adjust maybe, maybe we have the angle start here, or actually maybe we even, do something totally different. Maybe we start it something like that. Yeah, that's really cool. And then if you turn on motion blur, which is probably going to slow my computer down here. But you add motion blur to things like this, and the movements can get very realistic, really quickly. So this is something I love to use all the time for 3D cameras. For those of you who have followed my work for any period of time, you know that I use 3D cameras in pretty much everything that I design and animate. I use a 3D camera for everything. It's a smarter way to work. So this is just an awesome tool to use for creating movements. I'll show you what else it does here. Let's do a new composition. Let's do that. And let's go up here and close some of this. It's got really cool, like, basic backgrounds, right? So we can see like different like paint strokes here. You can open them up. There's singles or combos. There's different shape elements. I think I've used pretty much every pack that Animation Composer comes out with. And like I said, for the longest time, I never bought any of these expansion packs. I used the basic tool, the freebie version, for so much of my animation work because it's so solid, right? There's so much there. These here, grunge textures. I love texture, right? So what's cool is like I can pick like this fast texture here and I can add it to my composition. And there it is. And it actually came in at 4K. So if I wanted to scale this down, let's say 50%. And let's play through this. You can see that there's different parameters here again for how you can control it. Like I can actually adjust the duration of this texture movement to make it faster or slower. I can save palettes, color palettes. I can tint very easily. So there we go. There's the texture. If I wanted to like, give it like I don't know, a pinkish purple look. There you go. It's super quick. I mean, yes, we can do this with tint, but it's nice that it's all kind of built into this plugin, right? It's really cool. So there's also, if we go back here to browse, there's some really cool textures here, right? Just moving textures, really cool to work with. I've used a lot of these. There's fast textures, there's slow textures, like you see here. What else do we have here? So those are in the textures. We've also got essential sound effects. Maybe this is the one I've never used. I hardly ever use sound effects for my work. If it's going to be sound heavy, I would probably pass that off to somebody else to work on. Someone else who has a lot of expertise in sound. But it's there. There's also, what else we got here? We've got text presets, right? So many different types of text presets that kind of take what's built into After Effects a step further or several steps further. Just some really fun, and hopefully you guys can see these windows okay, these previews. I've used a lot of this stuff. Like, look at that. That's just fun stuff right there, right? So what we have to do is take our text tool, type here and put, text, and make sure that's enabled. Text is selected. Actually, let's make it quite a bit. Let's make it quite a bit bigger, right? So we just got basic text here, but if we want to do something funky, we can take a preset, apply it to that text. And again, you get these parameters here that you can play around with. And I mean, you can just, like I said, you can create some really awesome stuff really quickly. Like, let's turn the intensity down to like 50. This plugin, what it does is it applies expressions to everything. But it makes it so easy to change those expressions. Wiggles per second. Let's change it to like, I don't know, 2. Still pretty intense. Maybe take this down to 20. You know, like this is just one of those things I just love to play around with the values and just see what happens. So yeah, lots of different presets for text. Gosh, there's even like titles and lower thirds, right? Like you can see here, it's just really simple examples here. Like if I take, let's do this one. Let's do lower third, left 1 tier. We're going to add that to this composition. And you can see, I mean, it's there. We can adjust the endpoint, right? We just slide this endpoint in. And I didn't show you on the out point here, but the out point, it's really easy to adjust as well. You can just adjust the slider. And how you do it is you actually just end your layer there. That's where, like, let's say, actually I want to end it here. So super easy to use. Absolutely love this plugin, Animation Composer from Mr. Horse. There's also shape transitions, shape elements. I don't know. I don't get paid to talk about this guy's stuff. I've just used it for years and I absolutely love it. Okay, let's move on to this one. I'll go ahead and just save this untitled project for some reason. Okay, so this is a project I built for a membership I have. But what I wanted to do was show you some of the effects that I have used since 2007. Every professional motion designer I know uses this suite of plugins, and they're called Sapphire from Boris Effect. And someone actually mentioned that in the chat. So I've got an adjustment layer here, just kind of set over the top here. And I was just playing around this morning with some different plugins or effects from Boris Effects. And I kind of put these, up here because I was just kind of playing around. But essentially what it looks like is if you go to Effect and you go to Sapphire here, we can see that there's a lot of plugins here, right? From Adjust, which is something I don't use a ton of. Blur and Sharpen, really powerful blurs. This is the Sapphire Builder, so we can build our own effects. Sapphire Composite, compositing tools. Distort, lots of distortions. Lighting, lots of light. That's probably my favorite suite of plugins. Render, which creates elements for you. Stylize, which is my second favorite group of plugins. And we've got Time here, transitions here, which are awesome. I think that's it. So there are so many. I don't actually know. This is actually even an older version of Sapphire. I think I'm 2 years back. I don't typically upgrade plugins very often. Once I get a set of plugins that's working really well, I tend to stick with it. So I do need to upgrade my Sapphire. I'm sure there's even more plugins now included with Boris Effect Sapphire. But what's also really great about Sapphire is the presets, right? So if you go to like S Glow, this is one of my favorite plugins of all time. If you click on Load Preset here, it's going to load up a preset window that you actually cannot see because of the way I have this set up. Let me see if I can change this really quickly here. There, you should be able to see it now. You can see just here within Glow, all these different presets for Glow, right? And some of them have movement to them. So if I click the play button, you can see some of that movement in the noise. Dirty Glow, Fire Haze, Glistening Goblins, Soft Glow, Fantasy. A lot of times I used to like to stick with the default glow here. And then just play with some of the parameters. So it can be a little bit, I don't know. At first, when I first got Sapphire, I saw some of these parameters. I was like, oh no, like what do I even do here? How do I even what do I play around with? But it's super easy to play around with this glow plugin. All the Sapphire plugins are pretty simple to work with. You just have to kind of get in and just play around, right? And it's very intuitive, right, for what you can do. So in terms of glow, there's a lot of different glow plugins out there for After Effects. Sapphire Glow is still the best, in my opinion. So that's glow. I've got another one here for S Shake, Sapphire Shake. That is actually under Effect, Sapphire Distort, I believe. Yeah, S Shake right here. And what this does is it creates a camera shake, right? Again, if we turn on motion blur, it's going to look a little bit better. But if I hit the presets here, again, I can hit the play button and I can see, what's going on here. So like there's earthquake, beer goggles, like, oh, what's going on? What's shaking, baby? It adds that motion blur to it. Twitch channels is kind of twitching the RGB channels. Shake me gently. That's kind of nice. It's like a nice little handheld kind of movement. So I'm going to load that in. And then once I have that preset, I can, again, tweak it within the plugin's parameters. I find that Sapphire, typically for the presets, they're really good. A lot of plugins that you get for After Effects, you can apply a preset. You then have to really tweak the parameters to make it look good. It's a lot of times the presets are too over the top and you have to really dial them back. A lot of times with Sapphire, that's not the case. I mean, the presets are just awesome right out of the box. So that's another good one. There's also grain, which we have built into After Effects, but the grains within Sapphire are really awesome. Glint, this is like another lighting effect found under lighting. They can get some really interesting looks. It probably would work better if I had a color image here versus a black and white. But you get the idea. We also have like jitter frames, right? So this is a time effect. So Sapphire time, and where did it go? Why am I not seeing it? Jitter frames, right there. Alphabetical there. So you can see what this is doing, and maybe I'm going to go down to half res here so I can play back a little bit faster. It's just kind of like, it's almost like this. I think of like a horror film or something, or like maybe like where we see like things just moving in really bizarre fashion. Like that's what the default of jitter frames is. Again, you can go in, you can play around with some of these offsets and things like that. Get some really interesting looks this way. We've got flicker, right? So another one is that under time? Yeah, S flicker. Excuse me. This is a really nice looking effect that just applies flicker. Something I use in a lot of my work. Load presets. Again, I'm going to click play up here so I can see it looks like here. Here's a flicker that's just colorized, right? Campfire is really nice. We got a horror strobe, lightning, outlight, phoenix, undulating fear, zoetrope, but the default is really nice. I've also got, let's see here. What else? Oh, trails, right? Under time. So I wanted to show you guys some of these time effects because people a lot of times are like, well, what can you do with a time effect? But trails is really trippy, right? So look at it right out of the box. Look what it's doing there. Again, it's like a flashback scene, or it's you're trying to create like a retro looking animation or something like that. Trails is awesome for that kind of stuff. You can have like a logo flying through across the screen, and you see these trails kind of coming behind it. Really, really interesting looks. We've got stylize. Stylize, like I said, is my second favorite area to go into. Film effect. That just gives your composition that film look, right? That contrast, that grain, all that. Film damage is another one I absolutely love. I've always loved like the old film damage looks. So it, creates some really interesting dust, scratches. It's got that flicker built into it. Some of these plugins, it brings up a great point. Some of these plugins are using multiple plugins within Sapphire layered together to give you the effect. So like this one's using flicker built into it. It's probably using even like a noise generator to create the dust, the scratches, all that good stuff. Lots of great presets in here. Again, with the newer version of Sapphire, you're probably even going to get more looks than just this one. You can see, just some really nice. Some of them are over the top, right? A little bit too much for me. Some of them don't move in the playback, and that's okay. Like a lot of times if I kind of like how it's looking, I'll just click load and then bring it into my composition preview and see how it looks. Grindhouse, this is a good one. Super 8, pretty heavy on the scratch or the hair there. Kitchen sink, everything's just kind of brought into it. Classic film noir. Again, if I load it up, you can see it's got a really nice contrast to it, really nice grain to it. I can add additional details like scratches by coming over here, right? So there's a slider, or I can just put in a number here. So let's say I want heavy on the scratches. There's some heavy scratching there. I can adjust the vignetting, the flicker amount. Let's take it up to like 0.4, right? So now you can see it's a bigger amount of flicker. Defocus details, right? Defocus is set to 0. If I take it up to 1, it's probably, it's going to get crazy, right? It's just like the camera's constantly losing focus. Too intense, even maybe I'm like a 0.1 or something. A lot of times you want like very low values, right, in these effects. But really cool one. And then also under, let's go back to Sapphire Distort, Warp Chroma. So, chromatic aberration it's been popular for years. It's still around. It kind of just gives your work kind of like that extra finish at the end to make it look a little bit more realistic. A lot of times motion designers can overdo it or really push it too far. It looks really cheesy. This is obviously way over the top, but I get to load presets here. And then my favorite is the second one here, chromatic aberration is what they call it. And but there's also some other really nice ones here, like moderate warp for like some dream sequences, things like that, subtle warp. But chromatic aberration loaded in there. And I mean, you can see it already looks really nice. I like to take my from Z distance from 0.97 to 0.985 or even 0.99. I want it to be very, very subtle. But again, this is a great way to get chromatic aberration. So it's one of those finishing effects that I typically always put on my work at the end to really just kind of bring it to that next level. And it kind of just brings back, it removes some of that digital feeling and brings back some of that analog feel. So those are the ones I kind of pulled out ahead of time. Was it S Builder? This is the effect that you can actually use to build your own effects. Very, very powerful. I've had buddies that have built their own effects through here. I've never personally done it. But under S Builder, there's also like additional presets for different effects, right? There's some really, really cool stuff in here. Some film looks, everything. It's the whole kitchen sink here within the builder to work with. So what else do I want to show you really quickly here? This is just one of those plugins. It's so much fun just to dive in and just play around with all of them, right? Every feature film that you're seeing has Sapphire used in some capacity. A lot of times, I guess I would think of these more as on the old school style of motion design, which is kind of what I do, where it's a combination of footage with graphics. It's not just 2D graphic based, right? Vector based. These type of effects aren't going to work very well with that stuff. But I mean, there's so much you can do here. I mean, like warp fisheye, look at that. So cool. Let's see what the presets are here. Oh yeah. So, you know, I mean, like, look at that. It's just craziness. Fish Island. That's really cool. It's kind of the opposite effect, right? It's pushing it back. That's pretty neat. So much cool stuff under lighting, like I said, with bokeh lights and glow distortions and lens flares and light leaks. And I mean, I could spend all day showing you Sapphire's plugins and just, you know, creating new stuff. It's so much fun. So that's what I recommend for some of my favorite plugins for third-party plugins. Let me switch back over here. I can't see. There we go. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions about the plugins I just showed you, I'd be happy to answer them for you. Let's see here. Ryan said, pull this back up. Battle Axe's new plugin for quick exports from AE. Awesome, huh? Interesting. So it's quick exports from After Effects. I guess all I ever use is, you know, Media Encoder. That's just kind of my go-to now. It's funny because for years I stayed away from Media Encoder and just rendered straight out After Effects. And then they really beefed up Media Encoder to do so many different things now. It's kind of my go-to. Okay, so it's good to know, Matt. I've had people tell me before they can hear it. This guy actually didn't get too close, right? Like sometimes he's within 5 feet of me, and maybe he's taking it easy today. Universal Audio is a lifesaver for me. I'm not familiar with that one either. You have to tell me THRL. What is Universal Audio? What is that? Rare Parrot. Not familiar with that one either. Hey Kermit, what's going on? Element 3D. You know, with Element 3D, I do have it. I think I've owned it for many, many, many years, and I have used it one time in my entire freelancing career. I used it for some typography that I had to extrude very quickly and kind of do like a logo animation with it, and it worked for that. But for me, it's not a plugin that I found a lot of use for. I have a friend who uses it extensively and creates amazing stuff. So check out AE Suites. Very cool. Okay. Oh, you know what? I think I have heard of AE Suites. Yeah. That's awesome. I'll check it out. Okay, my friends. Well, that's all I got for you guys today. Hope you learned something new out of this, per usual. Just trying to give you a lot of value, and you know, hopefully you learned something from what I teach you. But I do plan on being back here next Tuesday, and I can't remember what the topic's going to be. Actually, I'll look it up really quickly here. Actually, it's not pulling up. I am going to do another video in the coming weeks about my favorite plugins within After Effects that are built into it. I think that would be very powerful as well. Oh yeah, so next week we're going to talk about things you didn't know After Effects could do. So there's a lot of things out there After Effects can do that a lot of people aren't familiar with. So that's what we're going to talk about next week. Friends, thank you so much for showing up today and listening to what I have to say. Everyone take care, and as always, keep on creating and getting better at what you do. Have a good one.